So we all know what Thanksgiving is supposed to be about. Gratitude, family, a minute to just kind of slow down. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Thanksgiving isn't about any of that. Well, not really. Somewhere through the years of the tradition, the holiday changed and no one seems to have noticed. But you probably have felt it. That sense that Thanksgiving just doesn't hit the way it used to. Like the meaning all leaked out on the floor and we're all standing around the table pretending not to notice the puddle. But what if I told you that the problem isn't the holiday, it's the stories that we've been telling about it? Because the real meaning of Thanksgiving is not the food or family or even the harvest. It's something far deeper, and until we rediscover it, the holiday is always going to feel hollow. So let me show you what we lost, and maybe we can get it back. Grace and peace to the seeker and the saint. I'm Joshua, a Jesus follower and truth seeker. Welcome back to The Truth Intention. Everybody says that Thanksgiving is about gratitude, but gratitude isn't the origin of the story. Certainly it's present at the first Thanksgiving, and we've kept that tradition. But I think we've lost something much deeper about the story. Much like Israel throughout a lot of the Old Testament, we've kept the feast, but I think we've forgotten what it was really for. So I guess the real question is, what does it mean? You know, back when it was the Pilgrims and the First Peoples. Before the turkey and cranberry sauce, before family time and Christmas decorations, before it got buried under football, grocery lists, and travel stress. To answer that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, and it doesn't begin with a grand feast or a plentiful harvest. It begins with wandering. Thanksgiving didn't start at the table. It started with years of wandering all the way from Europe across the Atlantic and into the Americas. It started with pain, disease, hunger. With people who weren't sure they were going to make it through the winter. A group of people who were tired and scared showed up in a land that they didn't understand, carrying more desperation than hope. There was no pride, no pretense, no triumph. They were helpless and vulnerable. And if you've ever walked through a season where you didn't know how you were going to make it through, maybe you get it. And once they got there, the story goes, they were welcomed. This is the part of the story we like to smooth out. We like to make it neat and comfortable with stories of Squanto and John Smith or something. These days we even seem to make the Pilgrims the heroes of the story. We distance ourselves from the original narrative because if we can distance ourselves from it, then the story no longer has any bearing on us today. We'll talk about that more in a bit. But the truth is, on that first Thanksgiving, the only reason the settlers survived was that someone else welcomed them. People who were already here, they gave of themselves and shared what they had. They didn't have to, and certainly it probably wasn't easy for them. Maybe it was a drain on their economy. But they did it anyway, and in so doing, they saved many lives. So Thanksgiving starts as an act of hospitality, of love in spite of fear, with no regard for national security, just shared humanity. Because of this, Thanksgiving wasn't about abundance. It was about relief. It wasn't the great prosperity the settlers had made for themselves. It was the mercy the first peoples had shown them. Two communities, one native, one newly arrived, sitting at the same table because the newcomers needed the natives to make it through the winter. The feast wasn't a victory lap. It was we, the settlers, in humility looking around and realizing that we couldn't have done it without them. And that's the part that we forget. But regardless, that feast did become a holiday, a ritual of memory, of identity and becoming. A time to remind ourselves that this is who we are. This is where we came from. These are the people who helped us survive. And this is the original story that was handed down. This week I was reading in Deuteronomy 26 about the Feast of First Fruits. And I thought how closely that feast for the Israelites mirrored the story of Thanksgiving for the Americas. God tells the Israelites in this chapter that when they go into Canaan, they'll take some of the first fruits of the ground, the first and best of the harvest. They'll offer those first fruits to God. And when they do, they'll say a few very peculiar things. They'll recite things like, a wandering Aramaean was our ancestor. He went down into Egypt and was there an immigrant, few in number. And there he became a great nation, mighty and populous. When the Egyptians treated us harshly, imposing hard labor laws, we cried unto the Lord God of our ancestors. The Lord heard our voice, saw our affliction, our toil, our oppression, and he brought us out of Egypt. And then they'd give 10% of their harvest to the priests, the immigrants, the orphans, and the widows, to make sure that none would ever go hungry. In this passage, I hear echoes of our Thanksgiving story. The real one, not football and travel plans. The story of immigrants coming into a land we didn't know and being helped. And in turn, helping others. But what does all this mean? What did we really lose in all that? And why does it matter? Well, in the modern prosperity of America, we still celebrate the feast, but we've forgotten the wandering that gave that meaning. We might tell a version of the Thanksgiving story, but we don't talk about our dependence as immigrants on those who were here first. We certainly don't remember that that is what made all of our abundance possible. We talk about some things we're grateful for, but we skip over the vulnerability that makes that gratitude real. And honestly, that's what makes Thanksgiving feel so different now. If you remember being a kid and being so affected by the story of settlers being shown hospitality by the first people, and celebrating a bountiful harvest together because of mercy, maybe you've felt that shift. Because we've come to believe that our abundance was self-won. We've come to believe that we're a self-made people and so owe nothing to anyone. But we're not. We were once immigrants. We once needed the help of the people who rightfully lived here. We were once fleeing our homelands, and we were once shown mercy. This is something we know as children, but forget as adults as we're conditioned to believe the new stories rather than the old ones. It's something we knew when the tradition began, and something we've conveniently forgotten over the years. What made Thanksgiving powerful wasn't the turkey or the bounty or the plentiful harvest. It was a reminder that we only survive together, that immigrants should be able to depend on citizens for mercy. It taught us humility and honesty. It taught us gratitude rooted in reality. It taught us not to look away and pretend everything is fine. It taught us that if we needed, when we were immigrants, then it is now our responsibility to give to the immigrant in need. It wasn't about having everything we wanted. It was about remembering the times when we didn't and the people who carried us through anyway. Here's the part that gives me hope. The meaning of Thanksgiving isn't really gone, just lost in the noise. Commercial noise, political noise, cultural noise, family noise. But it is still there, just waiting to be remembered. So here's my invitation to you this Thanksgiving. Remember where you came from, your wandering, your struggle, your story. The times when you had nothing, when you were scared, hungry, and someone came along and helped you. Think of that person who helped you survive. Name them and honor the people who saw you through your winter. Share your abundance, not because you have a lot, but because what little you have can be a gift to someone who needs it. And that may not be monetary. It may be time or emotional energy or something entirely different, a special gift or talent that only you can do. Make your table bigger than your comfort zone. Hospitality is how we tell the truth about who we really are. And by showing hospitality to others, even when it's a little outside of our comfort zone, is how the feast becomes sacred again. Maybe it's that person you disagree with politically. Maybe it's your neighbor who's living a different lifestyle from what you do. Maybe it's the immigrants or the refugees of your city. It's how we recover what we lost. It's how Thanksgiving becomes a moment of being human again. If you like this and it changed something about the way you think about Thanksgiving, stick around because there's more of that to come. In fact, you can find more videos just like this on the playlist right here. I'll see you over there. Till next time, go in peace, walk in truth, follow always the law of love.